Today, we're diving into a future that might be a whole lot closer than any of us expected. A world humming with incredible, mind-boggling productivity, powered by a workforce that doesn't need to eat or sleep or, and this is the important part, spend a single dime. So let's set the scene. The story kicks off on a very specific day, one that economists are saying is going to be etched in history forever. March 1st, 2026. They're calling it the Columbus milestone. And it might just be the moment the whole idea of a traditional workforce went from being essential to, well, endangered. And here is why everyone's freaking out. Inside this absolutely massive facility, a project between Amazon and Intel did something straight out of science fiction. You have one person, they call them an orchestrator, running an entire factory floor that turned out 50,000 complex pieces of hardware. And get this, no other humans were even in the building. This goes way beyond simple automation. This is the moment the cord was cut between how much stuff we can make and how many people we need to make it. This ratio right here, this tells the whole story. 1 human to 1 million robots. It's staggering. This is the very beginning of something called hyper leverage. You've got a single factory that's creating more economic value than an entire town of 10,000 people did just a decade ago, all managed by one person and their silent silicon-based workforce. Now, something this big, this disruptive, doesn't just pop up out of the blue. Turns out, the warning signs were there. In fact, this whole scenario was predicted just days before it happened in a report that went completely viral and shook the financial world right to its core. The culprit was a research paper from a firm called Citrini Research. And really, they framed it as just a thought exercise. But it painted such a vivid and frankly, terrifyingly plausible picture of a near-future economic collapse that it grabbed the attention of absolutely everyone, from Wall Street traders to the bigwigs in Silicon Valley. And here's the wildest part. The authors were clear. This was a hypothetical scenario, not a crystal ball prediction. But by laying out a future with massive unemployment and a stock market crash of nearly 40%, this fictional memo caused a very, very real panic. We're talking billions of dollars in market value just gone almost overnight. So what was this theory that got everyone so rattled? Well, it all boils down to this one really powerful idea. A brand new economic phenomenon that explains how a country's economy can look fantastic on paper, while for the actual people living in it, things are falling apart. They gave it a name, Ghost GDP. Just think about all the wealth, all the insane productivity coming out of that one-man factory. It all gets tallied up in the official numbers, right? It makes the country's GDP look bigger, healthier, but that money, it never actually reaches the hands of real people. It never gets spent on groceries or cars or houses. It just stays inside the machine, a ghost. To really get why this is such a game changer, let's do a quick refresher on how the economy is supposed to work. It all starts with a simple premise, right? Productivity, making more stuff creates wealth. And historically, that wealth was then used to hire more people. That created jobs, which put money in people's pockets, and they turn around and buy the very stuff that was being produced. It's a nice, neat, virtuous cycle. But as the Citrini report pointed out, there's a fatal flaw in this logic for our new era. And boom, there it is, the punchline. The AI and the robots, they're creating almost unbelievable amounts of value. But they don't buy anything. Machines spend $0. So the consumer economy, the one driven by you and me that makes up like 70% of the entire GDP, it just starts to dry up because its most productive new workers don't actually participate. So what happens next is this incredibly dangerous cycle. The report describes it as an economic engine that once you turn it on, you just can't stop it. It's a downward spiral that just keeps feeding itself. Let me walk you through it. Okay, step 1, a company brings in AI to be more efficient, cut down on payroll. That, of course, leads to layoffs. Step 2, those people who lost their jobs, they stop spending money, which means sales go down for everyone. Step 3, businesses see their profits getting squeezed. So what's their logical next move? Step 4, they invest in even more AI to cut costs even further, which, you guessed it, just throws gasoline on the fire and accelerates the whole cycle. The report literally calls it a negative feedback loop with no natural break. This chart from their report basically lays out the doomsday clock. They figured that between 2026 and 2027, you'd see AI agents really start to take over white-collar jobs. Then, in the year after, that vicious feedback loop we just talked about really kicks into high gear and unemployment spikes. And then, by 2028, the whole system is in crisis mode, with the stock market potentially tanking by more than a third. But there's something even deeper going on here. Something bigger than just one crisis. The argument is that the fundamental engine of our economy, the thing that's driven growth for centuries, has been quietly swapped out. And the name for this new engine is intelligence capital. The best way to think about it is all of a company's know-how and automated systems all rolled into one. It's become the new primary factor of production. All the old stuff, land, machinery, even information, it's all taking a back seat to a company's ability to just learn and automate on its own.
And that leads to this labor inversion. This is so crucial. The old rulebook said, if the economy grows, companies have to hire more people to create more output. Simple. But now, when the economy grows, companies can just reinvest that growth back into their intelligence capital, their AI, to get more output, completely bypassing the need to hire a single new person.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. One analysis dug into the numbers and found that in 2025 alone, based on all the historical models, economic growth should have created about 28 million jobs. But those jobs, they just never showed up. They're phantom jobs, a silent, invisible sign that this new reality is already here. Think about that for a second, because it's a really profound shift. We're all wired to think about automation as these big, dramatic mass layoffs you see on the news. But the bigger, and honestly, the much quieter threat is the end of job creation. The opportunities that our parents and grandparents just took for granted, they might not even exist for the next generation. And that brings us right back to that hangar in Ohio. If the crowd, the traditional workforce, is being left behind, what happens to the individual? In this strange new world, who are the winners and who are the losers? Well, the winner is this new breed of worker they're calling the sovereign solo. This is our orchestrator. These folks aren't turning wrenches or tightening bolts. They're fixing the logic of the AI agents that tell the robots what to do. They're the human conductor for a symphony of machines. And for that privilege, they're being paid absolutely insane salaries. And what this creates is the ultimate winner-take-all economy. I mean, look at this comparison. The value that used to be produced by 10,000 college-educated white-collar workers can now be cranked out by a single GPU cluster. And the output of an entire town's manufacturing base can be managed by one orchestrator. The leverage is just almost infinite. This leads us to a really deep, kind of unsettling question that one of the analyses brought up. When productivity is completely disconnected from the vast majority of people, how do we even define a person's value anymore? Where do people find their purpose? So, we have to leave you with this final thought. On the surface, the choice seems obvious, right? But the question isn't really about what you'd personally prefer. It's about what kind of society we're building when this is the choice. What happens when one person's incredible success is structurally tied to thousands of others becoming obsolete? That is the fundamental question that Ghost GDP and the Sovereign Solo are forcing all of us to confront right now.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next video.